Hello, greetings to you, my brothers, my sister in diaspora. I hope you're doing good. A quick apology for a little break. You haven't heard from me for a while, and that's because I had a short vacation to revamp myself as well as have a little rest. So, thank you so much for staying tuned and for always listening to me, for sharing my messages, for commenting, for subscribing to this channel, you know, for really taking me seriously. I appreciate you and I love you. Okay, so this moment I want to teach you something that I think you need to put into consideration. However, I must remind you that this is Afe Ubong Abasi, and I still remain Esien Akwande. Some people prefer to call me Oku. So sit tight and listen to this lecture. Now, I want to talk to you about what I call, what I would say, the basic uh, illnesses that you will know you've got to sort some spiritual impediment out of, or little illnesses that shows that you are indebted spiritually. Not all illnesses are natural. So for me to lay the framework for you to understand is that we get sick, and what's more, the symptoms for different sicknesses are often very similar. Like, you have about the same similarity for malaria, typhoid, even when there was COVID. Same symptoms. You have a damaged part in your body, you feel the pain on the inside, you feel feverish, you feel, symptoms are almost about the same. Okay, so how then would one understand what is really wrong? Is through diagnose. And when you diagnose, for most cases, what we find ourselves doing is to quickly treat the symptoms, not the cause. And you will agree with me that if you do not treat the cause, the symptoms will persist even after you've eradicated the various symptoms in your body. So now, the cause of a sickness can come from different ways. One of such way is through bacterial and fungal infections. So infections generally can cause you a sickness. And sicknesses that are caused by infections most times are easily treatable. Yeah, easily treatable. Now, the next cause of a sickness could be mental infliction due to the way you think. Most blood pressure, most stroke, or some, let me not use the word most, some people that are going through stroke, blood pressure is as a result of their thinking. So I will tag this as self-infliction. So your predominant thoughts begin to attract some kind of illnesses around you, sending the wrong signals to you, and then these sicknesses begin to vibrate in your body, and then you find yourself being sick. And to treat that sometimes doesn't really need drugs, and that's where, when doctors find out that someone is suffering from a certain sickness due to his mental state, they place you on placebo drugs rather, so that when you take those drugs, you begin to tell yourself again that you should be well because you have taken drugs, whereas they were not actually drugs. Okay, then other form of self-inflicted illnesses are habits, like you are a glutton, you like to eat too much. Yes, too much food would cause you a lot of sicknesses. One of such sickness will be diabetes and high blood sugar, low sugar, things like that. you know so habits can cause sicknesses too, and as a result of that, I would tag them self-inflicted causes of sickness, because you do that with your hands. Okay? Then the stage we must carefully look at today is the spiritual cause of sickness. Yes, spiritually sicknesses occur. One of such means of spiritual occurrences is that people do inflict people with certain sicknesses by performing some series of rituals and then pronouncing it on the person that they want to inflict, and then before you know, the person is inflicted. To solve that problem, you also have to follow a spiritual means, because what it means is that spirits will conjure, and this spirit can listen to and fro. They can listen to the person that caused it. They can equally listen to the person that wants to heal the person. So what you need to understand is the process to how you will sort the spiritual causes. Then the next one will be spiritual disalignment, and that is one of the highest cause of sicknesses. When I have looked around, the highest cause of sicknesses is spiritual disalignment, spiritual indebtedness. You are indebted in one way or the other. The only way it's going to show is through a health breakdown and financial, marital, your relationships get ruined. But health is one thing that is very predominant. One of such health challenges you find is stroke. You find high blood pressure, you find diabetes, you find frequent low sugar or frequent high sugar, and you will find mental illnesses, temporal or permanent. Those are caused by spiritual indebtedness. And then you will also find pile. You know, there are three stages of pile. We have the external, the internal, and the anal prolapse. They are all in the family of pile. And you know, you just find someone so healthy, and then that person begins to suffer those things. And then you would be asking, what then is the cause? Even though diet can also be a cause to that, poor diet can also be a cause to that, but in most cases, it has always been a spiritual impediment for being indebted or disaligned with your spiritual heritage. So, when you see this kind of sicknesses, what do? You really tell yourself that yes, you've got some spiritual challenges to fix. And in most cases, you would agree with me, for any of you that is having this kind of sicknesses as a result of spiritual impediment. You have been placed on drugs for months, perhaps years. You haven't gotten better. You have been given several herbs. You treated yourself with all sort of means. You haven't gotten any better. And that's because you were busy treating the symptoms. You were not treating the cause. And the cause is because you are either spiritually disaligned, or you are very indebted, or you have done something very wrong spiritually that you ought not to do, and then it begins to affect you. So what do? When such sicknesses persist, you must take the time to research through findings. As a matter of fact, the moment you take drugs, you treat yourself in all possible ways you have heard used to cure it, and then you are not being cured. My sister, my brother, do not waste valuable time. Jump into spiritual solutions. And in most cases, spiritual approach to healing ourselves are usually very cheap. Well, I hear some people say, these spiritualists, they charge exorbitantly and all of that. Well, you would be unfortunate to have met someone who charges very high. But I don't blame that person. That's what he feels. He needs to be rewarded for what he knew or he knows, because we didn't just come to know these things. We took effort to learning, practicing to perfection. And so they needs to be rewarded. However, I always put a word of caution and say to other spiritualists like me, and say, please be considerate. But if you find yourself in a place where you are demanded to pay a high price and you are sure that person can actually deliver, please feel free to pay. After all, I mean, when you go to the hospital, you don't argue prices with doctors. And these doctors only end up treating symptoms for you. They don't treat the cause. I mean, I've seen people go to the hospital, pay a huge amount of money. I mean, just some months ago, I had someone who had gone to the hospital to spend a whole lot of money for illness that I have told the person to come. It is a spiritual thing, and with a simple thing I can get it fixed. He kept saying, okay, let this doctor try first. I was told of one hospital. I was told of one specialist. Let me go. And every time he goes, he is being charged exorbitantly and he pays. You know, sad, it was at the point where his money was exhausted that he got to say, okay, you said you could do this thing. Let's come and try. And in less than 4 days, the problem was fixed. So you see, in my own case, I was the one cheated. Cheated in a sense that he came to me when he was no longer having enough money to have rewarded me for what I know and what I have done for him. And in most cases, that is really bad, sincerely, because what else do we get to do? This is our job. This is what we do to feed ourselves, feed our family. And so, of course, we are going to be paid. Okay? But then I don't hold money to the neck. And if you don't pay me, I don't know. I just will be very considerate and, just do the needful and expect that when you are okay, you would remember me. But again, having been in this system for so many years, I want to tell you that most of us are very ungrateful. We only remember the person when the spiritualist, when we want that healing. And perhaps the period where we are receiving that healing. And afterwards, when we are fine, we often forget these people. We often forget these people. It's the same mentality, A doctor treats you, and when you are done, you don't remember that doctor until maybe another sickness has come. So, where we treat you completely, that's where the doctors don't treat you completely. They manage your symptoms so that the problems keep persisting and you keep coming back to them so that they make more money. So we treat you completely, and perhaps we treat you, and for life, you may not need to come back for that same illness or even other illness in your body. And so you find out that you need to reward spiritualists like us more, to encourage us to encourage you, to teach you the right thing. Okay, so when you find yourself in such a situation where your illnesses keep persisting, irrespective of the drugs and herbs you have taken, always remember that it requires a spiritual process. It could be a spiritual bath. It could be a killing of a goat, a hen. It could be just a native egg offering. It could be going to the stream. It could be simple things. It could also be a bit complex. But I'm very certain that if the cause is spiritual and it is approached spiritually in the right process, such cause is usually being done, you are going to get a good result. So, scan through your life. What are those things, illnesses you are experiencing? How are they persisting? How many times have you taken drugs and herbs and they are not going? Then it is high time you handled it with a spiritual means, because that problem is caused spiritually. Once again, this is Afel Bangwasi. I do hope that you find this lecture very helpful. Do have a lovely life, okay? Bye.